Well, I'm back in the studio in England and I'm going to work on this very large canvas here now and have a go at this cafe scene in Argenton sur Creuse. Very complicated scene. It's in a black background and I'm going to use the roller to try and bring up these oranges and warms and cools to get the effect of light and basic background shapes, and then work up with the brushes afterwards bit by bit. Possibly using more of the flat brushes as well with this. It's how far to go with all of this detail. So we're going to start with the effect of light and overall basic shapes, and then work up the details more and more and more until I'm satisfied. I'm going to draw it out onto this black canvas first of all with white chalk, and then I've got to set out my new paints again. We've got the System 3 acrylics, the heavy body acrylics, a set of brushes over there, both flats and filberts, and rollers. I'm going to be using rollers for this one as well, the sponge rollers, which I'll explain more later. And all my tubes of paint are here ready to put out into the Stay Wet palette that I make myself. Large canvas and quite a challenge. So I've already marked my photograph off into quarters, and I'm going to now do the same approximately with the canvas. You don't have to be exact on something like this. It's really what happens on the canvas that matters most. In other words, we can make our changes on here, as all famous painters have to their compositions. But what I'm saying is I've marked these into quarters, so approximately here now, if I come up to halfway there, it's here. That angle goes on down to a vanishing point. Centre of the canvas is about there, about here. So if I come up from there to here, that line there, and I check the angle on that, this canvas is slightly wider than the photograph, so it's going to be this sort of an angle. So that's just about got that angle right, that's going to come down to about what I thought there. I just want rough composition at the moment. Halfway is here, it's coming just this side of halfway to here. Coming down from the door, reflection now is a vertical. Height of that door is about a third up here, so about 1, 2, 3 up there, so that's where that height of that door post should be. And that should be more of an angle there, so I need to have an angle across there. And then this shape coming out here and round. And then in front of it here we've got that shadow coming out there. And you see this thing starts to build up. All of it, you notice that all these shapes are the same, and I'll show you that a bit later. So we've just about got that quarter worked out now, working across the composition. Right, well that gives me my composition, doesn't it? And I don't want to be too figurative with it. I'm going to play with all of these shapes and colours and just draw a picture gradually out of it and hint at everything else. Not to be copying this photograph by any means. Well, here we have my homemade Stay Wet palette, just a deep sandwich box type box, and we can always use a sandwich box for this, but say do want it fairly deep so the top doesn't touch the colours. I'm using the System 3 heavy bodies at the moment, but of course they're being discontinued. We're not sure what's happening with them, it's been nearly a year now. But heavy bodies much better acrylics than the standard, although I do have to take some standard acrylics. I've got my mixture of flats and filbert brushes here, painting knives and so on, ready for my attack on this canvas. But isn't it so lovely to have all of those lovely bright fresh colours ready to use? It's so exciting. So let's take one of these brand new rollers, sponge roller as you see, and we're going to start off the painting with that and build up as much as we can of these background colours as almost glazes across the black. And it does work very well this with the rollers, you can almost glaze with them, and it gives a very nice textural effect. And then all of these other details will build up at the end. We'll see how far we can get with this and treat it, as I say, fairly abstractly. Now let's go down to how we're going to mix these. And I've added a further colour into my palette here now of black, which I don't normally use, but I do use it on these design pieces. So to mix this paint, I shall take one of my larger brushes. I've got my roller ready here. Usually use the roller in this tray rather than this one, but it doesn't really matter. Perhaps one of my older brushes would be good for this. These are all getting worn now. Replace them soon. They last quite a long time though, these brushes. They're quite good they're very good value for the money. And I need to mix up. I want a mid. I don't want too bright a red yet. I'm going to start with some warmer burnt siennas on here. So I'll take a little bit of that. Get it going in here first. Fairly pure. This is one of the reasons I like to use heavy bodies, because acrylic can be so gungy and thin and paste-like. So I'm going to build up with that first of all, and I want to I've got to get this roller started at first, so I'm going to dip it into my water here and just squeeze it off, just to get it dampened a bit. We don't want it wet because it'll make the paint far too thin. And then the trick is to so get that burnt sienna and really mix it up well to get a good consistency at first. And the trick is to roll the roller actually through the paint and the brush, to take it out of the brush, so we're not wasting any paint at all, like that. You can see the more thickly I make the paint, the more it's going to get onto the roller. Come back up to my canvas and we'll just start. You see how far the texture is, you see how thinly that goes on there. The white chalk will gradually disappear as I paint, and I can wash it out later with the damp sponge as well, once I get my drawing established with these colours, because it will just rub out, wash out with the damp sponge, and the paint will stay there. And you can use that sienna. Uses a fair amount of colour at first, this way of working. And you'll find we don't have to wash out constantly wash out the sponge roller. We take a little bit of red into that, just to make it a fraction warmer. Mix it up down here, and again draw the roller through both the paint. So I'm using fairly heavy paint at the moment. It's heavy body acrylic, and I'm not using white in it as yet, it's just pure colour. To here again and start to find this colour wherever it is. Here in the seats, for instance, you can use the roller with more delicacy than you might expect, but I'm letting the black just glow through here. Just get these textures and the effect of light. So obviously if we're painting a larger painting with a quite crude tool like this, although it can be used with some finesse, it's easier with a larger painting than with a smaller painting. So wherever this colour is, we're going to mix it at the moment, and plenty of this burnt sienna at the moment here, and a little bit more of the cadmium red into it as we start to build this up. And we should go more mauve in a moment. Just bring the roller through that again. Use the paint up that's on your brush, don't just waste paint. It doesn't matter which part we're painting here, whatever the colour is, we're going to use it. So for instance here, this rich red is going on just under her face here. And we'll come into more detail later and pick up on this, but just for the moment, just put a bit more colour on, painting quite thinly at the moment, just almost putting glazes of the stuff on here as I feel these colours one into another. This is the background to this saxophone. I'm going to go more purple now, and to add some magenta into this, which over the black will go a bit darker anyway. A nice big chunk of magenta into there, plenty of paint, and a wee touch of purple into that, just to bring it down a little bit, just to cool it down a fraction. And again, I've got to bring my brush, my roller right through that, and I haven't got to change I haven't got to wash anything out. All I've got to do is just make this colour. We'll test it out. print that's on the wall, and coming into the lamp a bit here as well. I'll paint the lamp in more detail. Magenta and crimson, beautiful colours. So we've got this sort of colour now. Lighter colours coming out. Lighter and lighter and lighter as they come up here around these forms. Need to bring that forward a bit or I can't get the roller onto it. So we're starting to lose the white chalk as I work these colours up stronger and stronger and stronger. Got to watch the angles because we're working so close up, but I must make sure that I still keep my verticals and horizontals here. I'll gradually lose all of these whites, and I'm going to take some of this lovely light magenta into this. Look at that lovely light colour that makes, almost a pinky. And again, you'd think that is so much lighter that I'd need to wash out the roller, but I don't. I can use that colour and blend it in with the roller to come back into this yet. Pick a bit more. Might go a bit bluer than this soon. Just want to get this lighter colour first of all. Because they're fairly heavy bodies, they're handling quite well. Let's start to look where these lighter areas are now, like this. We've got little lines of it coming down here, the side of the door. We can just start to work the edge of the roller down now to give the feeling, the impression of this. These lights. Wherever it is, we're going to need it. Down here on these bases of the seats. Probably do a bit more of this with the brushes later, but at the moment let's just feel this with the roller down there. But there's a lot of it going on down here into these paintings and into this circle here, these pans on the wall. It's amazing how putting this old way of mine of the right colours in the right places and the right shapes, and everything should just start to appear like a jigsaw. And I'm always struggling. I mean, you think, oh, he knows what he's doing, it's done it before, it's all easy. This is all experimental work. You might think it's easy for me, but when I'm doing this, it's all new and it's quite exciting. It's also very worrying, not stressful particularly, because I'm just involved in it. And when I'm involved in it, I don't think about anything else. So that's the beauty of it. It does relax me in that way, because it's all fresh and nothing else in my mind except for concentrating totally on this, and that does take my mind away from the rest of life's banalities and strains and stresses. Yes. I'm going to go more yellow ochre and golden now. Take some yellow ochre from there directly into this. And add some of that same very light pink magenta to it. Soften it down with that cooler colour, and we'll just again we'll blend that through the brush so that the whole roller is coated in it. I love painting with highlights, so gradually we're going to bring this out into highlights, sort of a checked pattern going on behind here, into this heart shape here, certainly coming down into this lamp here, around that edge, and this one. Gradually getting there, aren't we now? I want to go a bit cooler, so I'm going to add some blue to this now, the same mix. Take some cerulean and add that into it. A little touch of water just to thin it down a fraction, setting a little bit dry. Look at that lovely blue, pink grey that makes. A little bit more of that cerulean into there. And let's start on these cooler colours that are happening back here. The reflections of daylight through the door here. Let these cools come. right through the plates here, bring that forward again. Blue greys coming down. Make sure you watch out for where they are. Reflections aren't going much warmer suddenly, not much of that colour left. Let's take some nice bright cadmium red here. Really lovely bright red, not orange yet. A little bit of the darker red into it just to soften it a fraction. And put our roller through that and see if that's going to be clean enough for what we want. It does seem to be, look, because this is very good heavy body. I really want to start texturing on now the reds. Very complicated picture that we're trying to simplify a bit. Let's bring that texture around the edge of this scene. Once we've got that, there's a lot of this colour going on, so we have to come back up here, look at our hands. The light reflecting in the red reflecting off the hands here. This way we're avoiding painting a representation of it. We're not here to do an exact replica, photograph of this as a record. We're getting the feeling. We're using the paint for a beautiful abstraction. We're getting the feeling of these objects. More red down. Really, let's go for this lovely, strong reds. Not going to bring it through my brush this time. I'm just going straight into it. Lots of lovely thick paint on my roller. Texture. Come back over here to these. And the table is here. Finishes there. Goes back up. Reflecting along. There's no specific timing to a painting like this. You just work your way along it and just keep going, and eventually hopefully things start to appear. And talking of purples, we're going to have to get some of these reds going, these purples going up into these reds soon. I'm going to start slabbing on colours with a brush once I've got the overall effect of what I'm after. Right, I want to need to wash my brush and palette now. I'm going to come back to the yellows and yellow oranges a bit. Let's start with our lighter colour, and we'll start with some very light lemon yellows, pinks. So I'm going to start with white and a little touch of cool lemon yellow. And a little touch of chrome just to take it down a bit more. Yeah, let's go a bit more chromy or cadmium-y. And I'm not going to be very thick at this stage because yellows aren't very thick anyway and my roller's still a bit wet. So let's see what we go with that. We'll start to find these lamps and lights, shall we? Should make quite a difference, I think. We've got a lamp here which I want to pick out with the yellows. I'm going to go a lot light into that later. And then it's going to be happening to lights in all sorts of places throughout here. Going on behind this light yellow, reflecting and catching. I've got to do obviously the details with the brushwork later. I can't be doing that now for the actual lettering, but I can just start to hint at where things come here. This is probably one of the most complicated of this type of work I've ever tried to do. I do say tried, I'm still seeing if it'll work. You see the whites almost disappeared now. We're working almost entirely with colour over the that I've already drawn. But just by doing highlights, just by painting in these little bits of light in the approximate right places, we can try and get the feeling of this cafe and its atmosphere and all the little lights, and take some really strong lemon yellow and cadmium yellow now, just to try and get that strength without using a brush, if I can. Now I'm going to go back to some oranges. See if I can get that yellow onto here. Now let's go orange. Let's take some really nice dark orange into that and run that through the brush as well. And just see where we get some really rich oranges going on. Maybe down here. I'm going to put stronger reds in yet in places too. Really play with these beautiful colours. All these warm hues. So see, remember we've got warm hues in almost every single colour there is. So, right, even brighter red. I'm going to take some opera rose, which tends to disappear, which is a bit of a devil. I'm going to add it in with my red to really try and get a much brighter red on here. I'm adding it to that cream that I used originally. I'm just seeing the orange and just see if we can get a much stronger, more vibrant red if it's possible up here, more pink and red. Yeah, that's better. Really nice. Got to go pinker than that yet actually. I think a bit more magenta into it. I think I'm almost at the stage now where I've got to start using the brush to pull things together. Right, I'm just going to work a few blacks into it and then a few darks, and then I'm going to work with brushes. Right, let's grab some black. We haven't used any really deep cools as yet, but I'll probably put those in with the brushes. I just want to see what I can do with a very dark colour here. This time I'm going to mix it here, put a little bit of Prussian blue with it just to give it a bit more vibrance. So a nice black and touch of Prussian blue. I'll just run that through my roller. So you can use an ordinary plate for this. I like these other things because I can roll the brush out more that way. But it's quite adequate this way, look. And let's just work a few darks into this, not too much, just to get the feel of it. Get this drawing sorted a bit more. Look how that works against the black emulsion by now has got a bit pasty and white with the chalk and so on, down inside that door. And I can work backwards and forwards now, gradually finding my hints of dark. I'm going to have to work on this quite a bit to make it satisfactory to my ways of thinking, but it's I think it's got potential now. I wasn't sure because it was such a busy, complicated picture. I wasn't at all sure I was going to be able to do much with it. But I think we might be able to now. Whether it's going to be an attractive enough picture to make it commercially viable, that's a whole different matter. That I don't know yet. Until I get the highlights on, I'm not really going to know that. Right, I think it's time to leave it at that for the moment, and we'll come back with brushwork on it next. Well, a new day has dawned, and I'm back now to carry on with brushes on the painting. I'm going to move on now to my flats, and I might use one or two small rounds and filberts. We'll see how it goes. We've got to keep it loose, but I want to gradually tighten back in a bit to the painting. So I still want to keep it fairly contemporary and abstract in feel, but I just want to pick out the drawing of some places. Let's start on the figure over here and see what we can do about that. So I think I'll start with the small filbert and then work on to a 1/2 inch flat. I just want to work on the face first and just pull this together a bit more. I'm going to take the reverse colour first, take some of the black and just see if I can get some of this drawing a bit. Keep it nice and loose, the brushwork. So straight away we'll cut in there. Let's come back to that black again. Just got to work on these shapes, just giving the right impression and getting the right angles. Don't want that area there to be too large. Once we get salient points like this right, then we're really on track. We've got to really make sure that these are correct or it's not going to work. These shapes, if we just get the right shapes in the right places with the right colours, relevant one to another, suddenly these forms start to make sense, and reflect that down here as well, and a bit of light just on the bracelet here. And these things make such a difference. The way that there's got an earring down there. Just get the right marks in the right shape approximately. Tip of the brush. The beauty of the filberts, all the flats, we can use them sideways. Like this, just to get the stronger colours. Really look for the colours. We'll be pushing these colours anyway. I'll more cereally into that now. Come back up here and start to find some of these bluer colours amongst this. The bottles and things. Got to just stand back and use the brush almost like a sword in fencing, coming backwards and forwards here, looking at it, adjusting it, coming back again, doing the same. And here I've got to bring this lettering over soon, so I'm going to have to get my other brushes working, my flats working, and I just want to play with this lettering this time without going into too much detail, and that's going to be the awkward thing. Got this sort of checkered wallpaper going on back there that I want to just indicate. And we're starting to see these lamps and other forms take shape here now. Now I'm going to take some turquoise and white and make a very, very light blue indeed. Just feel my way down, so I'm just tickling this paint down here, trickling it, tickling it down, and that same colour is a little bit more of the turquoise into it. Let's really make these colours work. Having got that light blue going, we've got to see where else it is, and it's happening. A lovely colour it is, isn't it? But this is this difference in the colour hues, the warm and the cool blues, and the warm and the cools of every colour. Tip of the brush just slightly broken to try and get the feeling of this, again, this cut glass that's going on just here. Let's just say one of the most difficult paintings I think I've ever had to do, because it's so complicated. And I'm just starting to paint some real highlights in here. Got a glass just coming in there. One mark against another, so I have this one here, for instance, this light cream here against the blue there, to make them seem warmer and the cool cooler. Right, I'm now going to run down to a 0 in a little flat, one of the flats I want to use now, a long handle flat, and a number 4 in a round, and we'll have a look at this lettering. It's all exploratory, this, because I haven't done a piece like this before. Let's start with this lettering up here, and a little break, so I'll take my favourite palette lid off. So it's a golden sort of colour. I want to be using a cadmium for this at first. I'm going to add a little bit of orange to it, cadmium orange, just to take it down a fraction, and we'll just see if we can indicate these. So I don't want to be going over the top with it, I just want to indicate. See if this letter, so this brush is about the right size. I think it should be. I want to be fairly thin with the paint. A little bit of white into it, just a touch, just to get the feel of these letters. And so I only want to indicate. So let's see if I can do it with this brush first of all. I may have to go back to a filbert. We'll see. And I've not drawn it out. I'm just going straight in to see if I can just sketch this out. I don't want to make too much of this lettering because it will overtake it. All I want is the feeling of the light on it. Again, more water. So new brushes now. I'll show you them in a minute. I bought 2 sets of these lovely long, both filberts and flats and rounds, and I use a series of 5 from 0 to 4 and upwards. So French words in is nice to give the feeling of the French as well as the colours that we're using. Just want the effect of light shining across the surfaces of it. And we carry on down the same into the lettering here. This lovely golden yellow, once we've got it on the brush, if it's anywhere else then we need to use it. Say pure yellow, we can't. It's very difficult to get pure colours with the yellows because they do tend to be so thin and transparent, and that's not really good for us. Right, now we can go back and see if we can just build them up slightly more. Just leave that for a moment. Because it's a major painting, yes it really is. And I want to look at this chaise Aline here, which is obviously the name of the proprieteur. I'm going to use a small round brush for this, big. But I didn't want to overdo it, so blue. Again, it's a road sign, so we need. Right, I want to put a few more greens in. So with my little flat, I haven't got any greens, and there are greens in there. So let's just take some emerald here, for instance, and these greens are going to play. Certainly going to play against the reds beautifully. So let's look at that now. I see the difference that's already made now. And over here the same, we need that green coming through. Maybe even a little bit, strangely enough, just into the face here, a fraction. It's a very busy, very complicated painting, so at the moment I just want to bring out various highlights. I mean, let's just look for instance at this bit of colour going on here, and here it's a much lighter pink just there. I need my very fine brush. Let's take a number 2. I just wanted to pick up some of that very light cream. Just flick it on the circles that are going on the can. Just want to indicate these. This chaise Allen, I'm not sure about, and I knew I wasn't going to be from the start, but let's see if we can bring some of this yellow down into here more and push the sign back by making more of the yellow actually around it. Like a bit more, a little bit of the orange maybe. Just dry brush a tad of the orange down into it. Well, I think we're almost there now. Well, I can't see if there's an awful lot more to do to this. Maybe the face is just a bit too stark, so I'm going to take a little bit of the light magenta mauve mix and just soften it down a fraction. And I wanted to bring these blues out a bit more here, so I'm just going to take a fine brush and mix up a little of that. I'll take in fact a little 1/4 inch flat for the moment. Just see if I can get this turquoise a little more turquoise than it is. At the moment it's not quite strong enough, so that white wants that light blue there to play against the warms a little more. Got the colour on our brush, just make sure if it's needed somewhere else, you see. But it's a very busy painting, and I think I've done about the best I can with it. It's the last touches that can make or break a painting, always. These blues are just making it a little less flat. It's a very busy painting. I don't know what to make of it really, whether I really like it or not. And I think we can call that one done. I just think it needs signing down here now. Decide what colour with. Because you see, the signature is an integral part of the painting. We can't just forget it. It's a very important part of the painting. Do a nice big bold signature here. There we are then, let's take a closer look at it, shall we? As I say, it's a very detailed painting, and I've tried to keep it as loose as possible, otherwise it would just become an illustration. But we'll move into it and just see what sort of details we do have, which from a distance work, and on a big painting like this, close up will just be blobs of paint. So you can see here, just blobs of paint when we get up close to it. Just impressions of things, enjoying ourselves with those textures with the roller and with the brushes. Down to the background, right down into her. How simply she's painted. So there we are. Here's our sets of brushes now, the rounds, the filberts, the flats, more rounds again. I do 2 sets, and I sell these off at £20 a set for 9 brushes, which I don't think is bad for long-handled nylon brushes. And with those I've got some larger painting knives and other brushes as well for doing larger washwork. Well, here we are then, final picture. Very detailed, very busy, but I hope it works for you. And we're going on to something a bit simpler now, a street scene in autumn with the trees and the river behind.